I'm Charlie Bright of Gold Derby, and today I am speaking with filmmaker Nisha Pahuja, who is the director of the documentary "To Kill a Tiger" about a rape case in India. To simplify it very, very simply, the first thing I wanted to ask is about uh, Kiran's life since you wrapped up filming for this documentary. How has her life been since you wrapped up filming?
Yeah. Hi, Charlie. So she's, luckily, thankfully, she's just become an obnoxious teenager. She's 19 and a half, and she records videos on TikTok, and she dances to Bollywood tunes and lip syncs, and is really charming. Um, she doesn't live in her village anymore. She lives outside of her village. She is pursuing higher education, so she's sort of applied to colleges, and she has a part-time job. So yeah,
That
she's
sounds
good.
that sounds incredible.
Yeah. She's in a much better space.
How did you become aware of Kiran's story?
Yeah. Well, I was making a very different film, Charlie, from the one that I ended up with, and I was making a film following the work of the organization that you see in the film, the Srijan Foundation, and Mahindraji, who's one of the activists, and I was following their work around masculinity in 30 villages across the state of Jharkhand, and Ranjit, the father who's the main subject in the film, he was enrolled in one of these programs that the NGO was running, and that's how I found out about what happened to them. And literally, the very first time I met Ranjit was the day that I filmed. It's the day that I filmed with him. So I'd never been introduced to him before.
And is that because you met him first? Is that why you wanted to tell the story through his viewpoint?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it actually, because the focus of the original film was masculinity, uh, it was, I was following him primarily as a man, and also because in India, he would have been the person responsible and in charge of the pursuit of justice. It would have naturally have fallen on his shoulders, and so that's also why he's the primary focus.
Um, how did it take a while to try to gain the trust of Ranjit, and also, I'm guessing, also of Kiran as well? Did it take a while to, build that trust? Was that an ongoing process as you were filming?
Yeah, for sure. Uh, like I said, I mean, the first time I met the family was after this horrific thing had happened, and I literally just started filming with them right away. Right, there was no time. Normally when you make a doc, you've got all this prep time to meet people, to speak to people, to film first on camera, off camera. Just to get them familiar with the process. In this case, there was absolutely no time. It was just literally, I kind of like, just started. So the process was backwards, and it did take time. It did take about, I think it was about 3 or 4 months, and it was that actually about the third month or the fourth month mark where I started to feel like, oh, their guard was really coming down. That there's a moment where you feel something drop, right? When you're filming with people, when you're filming with your participants, you can just feel that natural intimacy and closeness, and it took a few months for that to happen, for sure. Yeah.
Um,
And I should add to that, if I
oh,
could,
yes, yes, please.
yeah, just in terms of her, in terms of Kiran, with her, I would say it took even longer, right? And that was a lot because didn't want to I wanted to make sure that we weren't re-traumatizing her, or doing anything that would traumatize her. So we were really, really careful of filming with her. We didn't film with her a lot at all, actually. And the interview, like that master interview that you see in the film, that was filmed after the case was over. It was actually like after 16 months of knowing her is when we did that interview. So before then, I really was just very, very kind of hands off and minimal as much as we needed to tell the story.
That sort of leads into my next question. You make a lot. You write. There's a lot of text in the movie about how you're trying to make sure her identity is protected. But then we do see her in the movie, and I'm guessing that was not the original plan. So what actually led to Kiran actually being shown in the movie?
Yeah. So actually, I think in my director's note, right, like in the press notes, I kind of explain how, the decision the decision to show her, which was actually a decision that she made. It was her choice. And what we did initially, right, when we first started filming with her, she was 13 years old. So of course we had no intention of showing her in the final film. And she was going to be a much smaller part in this, in the original kind of iteration of the film, right, which was a film on masculinity. So she was just going to be a much smaller kind of. She was going to play a much smaller part in that story, and when we were filming her, when I first started to film her in the field, we started to shoot her from kind of like behind, or sort of in these abstract ways where you just see her ribbon, or just see her hands. And as we were filming, that just started to feel so strange to do that. That's the kind of technique that you use if you're filming someone who may have done something, or who needs to be who should be kind of hidden. It felt like absolutely the wrong thing to do to a child. And I was really conscious of making sure that the process of filming and the way we filmed her didn't kind of exacerbate this idea that she had something to hide, that she should be ashamed, that she'd done something wrong, which was the attitude in the community. So I felt that we needed to just give her the dignity of, if we were going to film her, that we were going to film her like everyone else, and that we would find a way to hide her identity in post-production. So that was the intention. And for a number of years, we tried a lot of different things. Like we tried blurring, we tried animation. We even gave her a whole new face, right? We spoke to her as well about, how should we mask you? What are some of the things that you would like us to try? And one of her ideas was just try giving me a different face. So we tried that. And that was kind of interesting, but a little strange. And then by the time we were finished filming, she was an adult. She'd come of age. So we asked her how she would feel about coming forward, if that was something that she was open to considering, and she said yes, she would consider it. And she said, "Let me see the film." So my sound recordist, who's in India, flew to where the family was, showed them the film. And as soon as they saw the film, they all said yes, and she said yes. And I called her the next day to say, to ask her, like, why do you want to do this? Like, why do you want to come forward? And it's as we write in the text in the film. She said that for her, watching herself as a 13-year-old, she was so incredibly proud, and she felt that her courage needed to be celebrated. And the fact that, if she could do it at that age, then anyone could. So that's why she chose to come forward.
Looking at a more macro view of this, I know since this is wrapped, I know the film is just has not been widely seen as of yet, but since you finished filming, do you feel like there has been any meaningful reforms or attempts at reforms at the way that either that sexual assault is viewed in India, or the way that masculinity, because I know that's what you were originally looking at. Have there been any like slight changes or signs of progress about either of those in India?
Yes, and I mean, yes and no, but what I would say that the film, the film is just kind of a reflection of a larger reality. And if we're talking about change in India, it's going to take a lot more than one film, right? To have an impact, because there have been, historically, if you think about it, there have been so many horrific cases of sexual violence in India that have led to certain reforms and strengthening of laws. For example, the Delhi gang rape in 2012, which was the horrific incident of the young woman on the bus in Delhi who essentially died from the injuries she sustained while she was raped, after she was raped. So that sort of ushered in a number of very stringent laws and policy change. But the point is that if you look at the actual statistics and the numbers, it hasn't really had an impact, and that's because India is a country that is very, very complicated. And if you're going to have change in a place like that, you have to really operate at so many different levels. And the level of law and the level of policy is only one level. The key really is culture. And how do you make change to culture, And I think that's why the work of this NGO, for example, is so critical, because it is absolutely grassroots, on the ground, engaging with people. And sometimes I think to have an impact on culture, you have to also have that approach. So, and if I may just say, this is kind of a perfect kind of segue to talk about, some of the aspirations that we have for the film and the work that we want to do vis-a-vis impact. So we're now partnering with Equality Now, which is an incredible organization, an American and sort of global facing organization that uses law, that sort of advocates for change by changing laws in countries, ensuring that there are legal reform that benefits women, and ensures gender justice. So we're working with that organization now in order to have an impact.
And just one other thing I was curious about, because you were going around asking about something that was, asking people in the village, in the area, about something that was so sensitive, and obviously coming from a viewpoint that was very different than a lot of the people you were interviewing. Were you ever concerned for the safety of you or your crew as you were filming?
No, not in a way that was not in a way that sort of made me want to stop filming, except for the scene in the film where the villagers do turn and it looks like we're going to be attacked, right? Like at that moment, yes, there was definitely fear at that moment. But after that incident, I never went back, right? So that was the last time that we filmed in the village. So yeah. Other than that, I wasn't afraid. I was aware that there was tension and that there was this kind of threat of violence, but it never felt like it was going to actually happen until it nearly almost did.
Well, Nisha, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best over the upcoming season. And
thank you.
And to all of our viewers, please like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to keep coming to Gold Derby to update your predictions as we head into award season. Thanks so much, Nisha.
Thank you.